Alfonso Cahero, A Journey into Finance History, Chapter 10, Introduction of the Feudal System in Europe, 8th Century. In the vast expanse of medieval Europe, where kingdoms rose and fell like the ebb and flow of tides, the 8th century heralded the dawn of a new era, the introduction of the feudal system. This system, a complex web of social, economic, and political relationships, would come to define the medieval landscape for centuries to come. But its origins lay in the tumultuous events of the early Middle Ages, as the collapse of the Roman Empire gave rise to new forms of governance and organization. With the decline of centralized authority in the wake of Rome's collapse, Europe plunged into a period of chaos and instability. Local rulers, faced with the daunting task of maintaining order and defending their territories, turned to a system of reciprocal obligations known as feudalism. Under this system, lords granted land, known as fiefs, to vassals in exchange for loyalty, military service, and other duties. This decentralized structure allowed for greater flexibility and autonomy, enabling rulers to exert control over their domains in the absence of a strong central government. Amidst the turmoil of the early Middle Ages, the Catholic Church emerged as a powerful force for stability and unity. As feudalism took hold, the Church played a central role in legitimizing and regulating the relationships between lords and vassals. It promoted the concept of divine right, asserting that kings and lords ruled by the grace of God and owed allegiance to the Church. Through its vast network of monasteries, cathedrals, and schools, the Church wielded immense influence over all aspects of medieval life, shaping the development of feudal society. At the heart of the feudal system lay a hierarchical structure known as the feudal pyramid. At the apex stood the king, who held ultimate authority over the realm. Below him were the nobles, or lords, who controlled vast estates and exercised power over their vassals. Beneath the nobles were the vassals themselves, who swore oaths of fealty to their lords in exchange for protection and land. At the lowest rung of the pyramid were the peasants, who worked the land in return for the right to live on it and protection from outside threats. Integral to the feudal system was the manorial system, a form of agricultural organization that governed the production and distribution of food and resources. At the heart of each manor was the lord's estate, or manor house, surrounded by fields, pastures, and villages, worked by peasants known as serfs. The lord exercised authority over the manor, collecting taxes, administering justice, and providing protection to his subjects. In return, the serfs were obligated to work the land, paying rent and tithes to their lord in the form of crops, goods, or labor. Central to the feudal system were the obligations and rights that governed the relationships between lords and vassals. Lords were responsible for providing protection and justice to their vassals, as well as granting them land and resources. In return, vassals owed their lords military service, loyalty, and other forms of support. These reciprocal obligations formed the basis of feudal society, binding together lords and vassals in a web of mutual dependence and obligation. As Europe entered the later Middle Ages, the feudal system began to decline in the face of changing social, economic, and political realities. The growth of towns and cities, the emergence of a money economy, and the rise of centralized monarchies all challenged the traditional structures of feudal society. Kings sought to consolidate their power, asserting control over their nobles and reducing their reliance on feudal obligations. The Black Death, which ravaged Europe in the 14th century, further weakened the feudal system, decimating the population and undermining the authority of the landed aristocracy. Though the feudal system eventually faded into history, its legacy lived on in the institutions, customs, and traditions of medieval Europe. The feudal pyramid, with its hierarchical structure and reciprocal obligations, shaped the political, social, and economic landscape of the Middle Ages. Feudal relationships, based on loyalty, service, and honor, left an indelible mark on the collective consciousness of medieval society. And while the feudal system may no longer exist in its original form, its influence can still be seen in the modern world, a testament to the enduring power of medieval institutions. Beyond its political and economic implications, Feudalism exerted a profound cultural influence on medieval society. The feudal system fostered a code of chivalry among the nobility, promoting ideals of honor, bravery, and loyalty. Knights, the epitome of feudal warriors, adhered to a strict code of conduct that governed their behavior both on and off the battlefield. This culture of chivalry permeated all aspects of medieval life, influencing literature, art, and social norms. Tales of knightly valor and courtly romance captivated the imaginations of poets and storytellers, shaping the cultural landscape of the Middle Ages. Central to the feudal system was the concept of land ownership, which served as the basis of wealth, power, and social status. Land was not merely a commodity to be bought and sold, but a symbol of feudal privilege and authority. Lords held vast estates or manors, which they administered with the assistance of their vassals. These estates provided the economic foundation of feudal society, producing food, goods, and revenue that sustained the ruling elite. Land ownership conferred prestige and influence, allowing lords to exert control over their subjects and assert their dominance in the feudal hierarchy. Warfare was a constant reality in medieval Europe, and the feudal system played a crucial role in organizing and mobilizing military forces. Lords were expected to provide troops for the defense of the realm, raising armies from their vassals and serfs in times of war. Knights, trained in the art of combat from an early age, formed the backbone of feudal armies, fighting on horseback and wielding weapons with skill and precision. Feudal obligations dictated that lords must answer the call to arms from their sovereign, pledging their allegiance and military support in exchange for land and protection. Feudal society was governed by a complex legal system that reflected the hierarchical nature of the feudal hierarchy. Justice was administered at the local level by lords and their appointed officials, who presided over courts known as manorial courts. These courts dealt with a wide range of legal matters, including disputes over land, contracts, and criminal offenses. Feudal law was based on custom, precedent, and tradition, rather than written statutes, and judgments were often influenced by the personal biases and interests of the ruling elite. Despite its shortcomings, the feudal legal system provided a framework for resolving disputes and maintaining order in medieval society. While the feudal system benefited the ruling elite, it often imposed heavy burdens on the peasantry, who comprised the vast majority of the population. Peasants, or serfs, were bound to the land they worked, subject to the authority of their lord and obligated to provide labor, goods, and taxes in return for protection and security. Life for serfs was marked by toil, hardship, and uncertainty, as they struggled to eke out a living from the land while navigating the demands of their feudal overlords. Despite their lowly status, peasants played a vital role in sustaining the feudal economy, producing food and resources that fueled the wealth and power of the ruling elite. By the late Middle Ages, the feudal system had begun to unravel under the weight of its own contradictions and inefficiencies. The rise of centralized monarchies, the growth of urban centers, and the emergence of a money economy all contributed to the decline of feudalism. Kings sought to consolidate their power at the expense of the nobility, asserting control over their territories and undermining the authority of feudal lords. The Black Death, which swept across Europe in the 14th century, further weakened the feudal system, decimating the population and destabilizing the social order. In its place arose new forms of governance and organization, laying the groundwork for the modern world. Though feudalism may have faded into history, its legacy lives on in the institutions, customs, and traditions of modern society. Many aspects of feudalism, such as land ownership, social hierarchy, and legal systems, continue to shape our lives today. The concept of feudal obligation, though transformed over the centuries, remains relevant in the form of civic duty, corporate responsibility, and social contract theory. Feudalism's impact can be seen in the enduring influence of aristocratic families, the persistence of traditional customs and rituals, and the resilience of hierarchical structures in politics, economics, and social life.